Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I got something really cool to take a look at. This is a new little RC truck from RLAARLO. This is a 1/16 scale four-wheel drive truck. Now, if you subscribe to my channel, you probably saw I did a RLAARLO buggy recently on the channel. About a couple of months ago I did it. I really liked that one, so I was excited whenever they reached out to me and offered me opportunity to take a look at their new truck. Now the car I did was right over here. I'll show you guys. This one right here, so you can see they've stuck with the same kind of red look and their trademark colors. But I just think this one is going to be a lot of fun. It may not be quite as high quality as this one, but it has a similar shocks. It has some unique features, such as the way you remove the body. It doesn't use body clips, and I'll show that as well when we get to the table review portion of it. It's just a little brush truck. Again, it's 1/16 scale. It is four-wheel drive. It has those same friction shocks. They're not oil filled. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll get a table review into this and a driver review. I think I'm going to do the driver review first. So after the driver review, then I'll stick the table review at the end of this, because not everybody wants to watch that. So if you're interested in table review, that'll be at the very end of this video. So you want to stick around for that if you want to see everything that comes inside of here, get a closer look at the truck itself. So what we'll do is we're going to get on outside to the driver view of this truck right after this. Alright guys, let's get the RLAARLO truck out for a test drive now. If you want to see the table review for this will be at the very end of this video. So if you're interested in checking out what all comes with this and a closer look at the inside and the electronics and the parts, then stick around to the end for that video. As you can see, I've got it powered up. LED lights are not super bright. They'll be a lot more noticeable if we drove this at night. But on 2S, it's just, of course, the LEDs are just powered off of the 5 volts, I believe. So it won't matter if it's 2 or 3S. It's just the size and the type of LEDs, I believe. So we'll take it out here and drive it around. We'll see if this wheelie bar is needed. I did pull off that protective film, and I don't know why they put the protective film on so many of these bodies. It's not like it's going to get damaged in shipment. It's common when they make these Lexus bodies, they put that film on. And if it's just a body, it's fine. But they put them on, and then they go put all these plastic pieces on top of the body. And then when you try to pull the film off, you can't get the film pulled off. There's all this residue because it's going underneath this, underneath the clamp in the back. And to fix that, I need to actually take the body off and unscrew these and pull those pieces off, and then I could pull the film out and then reattach them. And I haven't done that yet, but it's just a hassle, and I just don't know why every one of these comes with that silly film. Unless there's something I'm unaware of, I don't see what the need is for that film, because you're not going to want it whenever you're driving it around. It looks dull, and it's not going to protect the body. One crash, and you're going to scar it all up. It's going to go right through that. It's basically like saran wrap. All right, let's go ahead and just drive it around, guys, and let's just see how it does. Now, we had a big snowstorm a week ago. Most of the snow is gone, but as you guys can imagine, the grass and everything is just super wet, like wet carpet. And if I go back to my normal spot in the back, it's going to be pure mud, and I'm going to need boots or something to walk back there. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to take it back and do my ramp, that hill back there I jumped by the cemetery. I'm just going to drive it around here on the street in my yard. Should be okay in the driveway. And we'll just get an idea. I'm not going to do any kind of top speed on this. They do rate it, I believe it was it 30 or 40? I thought it was 40 kilometers per hour, whatever it was. It seemed a little hot, a little suspect. So the throttle trim and steering rate, I've just checked that really quickly before we started this video. They're both all the way up. It appears that they are, I believe they're labeled correctly. Even so, they're both all the way up, so we would be able to get max speed. So let's go ahead and give a little throttle, and this is fully proportional. So a little bit of steering, a little steer does a little, and the throttle, as you see, I'll give a little bit of throttle. We'll go slow. So it's not one of those all or nothing steering, all or nothing speed. Now that's about probably half speed maybe. Just testing it out here and see how responsiveness. Steering seems nice. Let's go ahead and floor it now. About what I expected. It's on a little brush motor and four-wheel drive. You're not going to expect a whole ton of speed. It looks like it was pulling, so let's see if we can. It's pulling to the left, so I'm going to give a little right steering trim. You always have to do that when you first get a car, is get the steering aligned. It's always going to be a little bit out of whack. And depending on the quality of the servo, you know, sometimes you have to readjust it after a hard crash or just throughout the run. So this isn't going to be the most ideal driver view here in front of my house. I've done this before, but I like to take it in the backyard, take it a little more off-road, but like I said, it's just a little, it's not ideal for doing that today. Let's see if we can kind of take it on the snow. I'm going to ease it up here. Yeah, there we go. I'm afraid if I jump that, it's just going to flip over and get stuck, and I have to get my shoes wet getting it. Let's see. Oh! And this, they didn't list whether this was, you know, waterproof per se, but it's going to have no problem with a little snow. We got some snow there in the front of it, some old snow. But you're gonna have no problem with a little water. Snow is not gonna hurt it. Just that usually these kind of toys, you know, very few are gonna be actual waterproof, where you're gonna need to, you know, where you could submerge it underwater. That's gonna be a very expensive car. It's gonna be capable of that. So let's see if we can. Oh yeah, that actually might make a pretty decent little ramp there. That'd actually be a nice little makeshift ramp if I can hit that. Let's try it. Oh! I didn't quite hit it straight on. We got some recyclables blown out here I have to pick up from the wind. The recyclable was not even picked up last week because of the snowstorm. So now we got more than will fit. Oh! I was trying to hit that lower spot, but I hit the more bank of snow and it didn't, you know. Let's see if we can. Oh, nice. That's what I wanted. This makes a nice little ramp because it's just the right slope. It's just really close to the curb here, so. Yeah. I said, like I mentioned in the, I mentioned this in the table review, so you haven't seen this yet, but I was mentioning how the shocks were awfully stiff. Actually, for this little truck, it works out okay. You don't want it to be super bouncy, because bouncy shocks are going to just bounce it around and it's going to end up flipping. So being stiff is probably better. Oh, slammed into it again. But obviously oil-filled's gonna be better. I mean, they do make oil-filled shocks on their buggy now. They're just these exact same ones. But at this size and cost and stuff, it's not, you know, expected. Now, I have noticed something here I didn't pay attention. I didn't notice even until right now. Is there are lights here on the back that are red. It's got red. When I hit the brake, your brake lights come on. I did not notice that in the table review. I won't mention that because I didn't notice it. I just overlooked it. And you can see some of that film up in there that I need to get out because I couldn't pull it out of there. I almost need tweezers, even so it's not going to all pull out. It's going to rip. So you've got white LEDs in the front and you got a red rear LED strip light for your brakes. That's pretty cool. Actually, that's really cool. I don't ever recall a toy grade car come with any kind of brake lights. Yeah, it's got decent power too. I mean, that's what you hope with four-wheel drive. That works pretty well. I can just fly right over that. I didn't think at 1/16 scale that this would be able to handle that. But look, it's going right through that snow. Now, it is well above freezing today, so that snow is not rock hard, you know, refrozen. So it's a bit soft, but it's still, let's see if we can get out of here. No. We are stuck on some snow and then the taller grass here, so. So the one thing I mentioned was it has this wheelie bar on the back, and is that necessary? Well, so far I don't see a reason for it. It seems like extra weight. The best way we can test that is do a reverse and then forward and see if it actually would do a wheelie. So let me try that. Oh boy, not much. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's the only way you're gonna get a wheelie is going reverse and slamming it into forward, which is a little hard on the gears as well. So, you know, my recommendation on that is, you know, I would say just that's dead weight. That, not a lot, but I'd remove this if you can. I'll have to see if you could still reattach the bumper, because it just doesn't need it. It doesn't ride wheelies. Now, it's not going to really make much difference. It's not like you're going to take that off and the car's going to be a lot faster because you remove that weight. It's going to be negligible. You wouldn't be able to notice it. Maybe, you know, a tenth of a mile per hour difference with that weight removed, if any. But it just, it's not needed. Every little weight will help a little with run time as well. But again, that's not enough to really make any kind of difference. Yeah. Again, I'm impressed with the traction and power. I thought it might be a little worse than that, being a brushed motor. It's going through that snow. I mean, as you saw at the beginning, I was a little reluctant to take it because I thought it was gonna get stuck up in there. And best of all, I think we can all agree this red black just is a really sharp color combination. If you're gonna make a toy like this and you're trying to appeal to someone getting into it, and this might be their first RC truck, they're gonna be drawn to this just because who doesn't want a car that looks good? This looks really good, just like the buggy. People, a lot of comments on how nice that buggy looked, and when you compare that to the original 144001 by WL Toys, that green and the metal shocks are better on the WL Toys, but you know, compared to the one I got, and like I said, they have put oil-filled shocks on it now, like David over at Perth West has on his. But it just looks a lot better than that green and that ugly, kind of ugly WL Toys color combination. RLAARLO's really hit it out of the ballpark when it comes to these color combination. The red accents on the black wheels there. Just a super job of getting the color combinations down. All right, guys, I think that's enough. You guys can see it here. Again, if you skimmed around, I did mention at the beginning we got the white LEDs in the front, but as you can see when I hit the brake, you got those rear brake lights. That's really cool. And again, the wheelie bar doesn't do anything. All right, guys, that wraps up the drive review for the RLAARLO truck. Again, the model number is sort of a mouthful, so I don't remember what that is offhand, but I do tell you that in the table review. So speaking of that, if you're interested in the table review, stick around for that now. If not, then you guys have a great day. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video here for the unboxing and table review for the little RLAARLO truck. Now, I'm filming this before the drive review, so even though you guys have already seen the drive review, I haven't driven it yet, so there may be a few things I may say that I found out differently when I got outside and drove it, so keep that in mind. So as you can see, it says ages 8 and up, so this is obviously meant for a beginner. So as I alluded to at the very opening, you know, this ought to be a pretty good beginner's truck. 1/16 scale, 4-wheel drive. They just mentioned a few things over here. You know, the shocks, and it's still hard to read because of the glare here. It says a top speed of 40 kilometers per hour, which I don't know. That seems a little inflated even for kilometers per hour. The model number of this, I've got it listed on one spot, and I believe it was right over here. And it is the XDKJ-011. So very similar to the buggy that I showed you guys. I think it was exact same, but it was -001. So very easy to get these two model numbers confused. So let's go ahead and open this up and take a look at the truck and get a closer look at everything here before we wrap this video up. Again, it has the red and, you know, the same accents and colors that the RLAARLO always uses, and it has the same style of controller that RLAARLO used on the other the buggy as well. Very unique controller. So let's go ahead and open it up and get all the stuff out. So here is the truck, which you guys saw in the opening as well. Now I can see that there's some, it's got that plastic protective coating, film I should say, that you want to remove that's gonna tear off, and obviously that's going to give the truck a better look. Whenever you pull that film off, it's gonna have a much better shine. Let's put the truck off to the side and just look at what else is in here so I can get the whole box out of the way. So you're gonna have your controller in here. Again, this controller is just like the other RLAARLO, very unique with the red accents and the set the box on the floor here. Just a unique style controller, so let's get that out. Now they give you an extra battery. There's already one inside the truck, so you get two of these lithium ion. These are 1500 milliamp hour 2S lithium ion packs. So, you know, pretty much the same as a LiPo, except for these lithium ions aren't as susceptible to, you know, bloating or failing. They don't have to be kept at storage voltage necessarily. It's better to, but they're not as sensitive to that. So keep that in mind. That's one reason why they use a lot of these batteries in these trucks that don't have hobby grade chargers, is because LiPos are just, they need to be stored at storage voltage, and these don't. So there is the little USB charger. So this is just going to be a really slow, it charges off the balance plug of the battery, and you can only charge one battery at a time. So as I always recommend, it's better to get yourself even a cheap IMAX or hobby grade clone for 20-30 bucks. You can sometimes get them. It's be much better than what that little USB. But this will get the job done if that's all you got. They give you a Phillips screwdriver and a little 4-way wrench for removing the wheels. And then here is the controller that's just like the other controller I mentioned. It's got that red foam grip, which is really cool little grip. And this controller seems to be pretty decent. You've got on the top here your throttle trim, your steering rates, that's how far the wheels will turn. So it's sort of like reducing or increasing your radius, and your steering trim to line it up if it pulls to the left or to the right. You got throttle and steering reversing, which you shouldn't need to mess with. That just reverses the direction completely, you know, of the servos. And like your power lights, and here maybe a low battery. Here's your power button, and your throttle, your brake, and then if you hold it down, you'll go into your reverse. Let's see how many batteries. I forget. I think this probably takes three. Yeah, 3 AA batteries here. Now, on the RLAARLO buggy, there was a mistake with the label on that one, where they actually had a couple of knobs reversed. So I didn't have, on the first run of that car, I didn't have the throttle trim all the way up. Like, it was not set to go to max speeds. I had to do a separate video just to show that it could go a little faster than I thought. Obviously, we probably figured that out by now since I've not driven it, so I'm just mentioning that here again. But hopefully during the driver view, you know, I already checked that out. And the one that says throttle trim and the steering rate, I believe those are the two that were reversed, and the other one are both all the way up. So it should be fine, but just in case this controller has that same unfortunate mislabeling, just wanted to point that out. So you just want to double check that to make sure that your throttle rate is all the way up. And here is the instruction manual. Looks like it's, you know, fairly large font. It looks to be a rather good English. Just your basic overview. The same thing describing throttle, steering rate, and trim here. And just your basic controls. If you have any experience with the RC car, you're not going to need to even look at this, except for maybe if you needed to get some extra parts here, which are labeled in the back, which I don't know, you know, exactly where you would get that. You'd have to contact RLAARLO for extra parts if you needed one. And a very basic diagram of how you assemble it. Sort of an exploded view, but not you know, there's more here in the back. Not much on that. Now RLAARLO, in terms of the buggy, that one was a sort of rebranded and slightly modified version of the WL Toys 144-001. That buggy that came out several years ago that was super popular. I don't know if this is, you know, a specific rebrand or if this is something that RLAARLO had made. I couldn't tell you. It probably is a rebranded. I just don't know. It could be a WL Toys again. You know, that's what a lot of times when these companies rebrand, they'll stick with the same company. So I think this is probably a WL Toys, but it could also be, you know, Zinlahong makes a ton of them, and PX Toys. So it could be one of those brands. So let's take a closer look at the truck now. Let's get this stuff out of the way. So this truck does have LED lights on the front bumper. There's 3, and there's 4 light strip here across the top of the truck. So these will light up, allow you to drive at night and just get a little bit of visibility where the truck is. So that's a cool little added touch. Again, it's got the friction shocks that look like to be the same red plastic friction shocks that they use on the buggy. So they're okay. They're really stiff. They're not super bouncy. That's probably better that they're not super bouncy, but they are rather stiff. Obviously, oil fill would be nicer, and they do sell, or they did upgrade that buggy to include oil filled recently. Mine doesn't have it, so you can get oil filled shocks directly from RLAARLO, or there's many other companies and cheap oil filled shocks, I mean, in aluminum metal housing ones that you can get if you wanted to upgrade this truck to have better suspension. So it has a wheelie bar in the back, so we'll have to see, you know, obviously in the driver view, since I already filmed that, we'll see did it actually, I can't tell you, you know, a little brush truck like this, you usually don't expect that they're going to ride a wheelie, but it depends on how its gearing ratio is and how it's geared. So if it's really geared for a lot of acceleration and lower top end, then it might actually have ridden a wheelie. So again, that's one thing we already would know at this point. You would, but I don't, since I've not actually driven it yet. So what we want to do now is show you how to get this body off, and then of course I'll need to pull this film off as well. But what you do is this little lever, you have to slide this over to the side to unlock it, and then this comes up like this, and then the whole body is like on a hinge, and you pull it back, I think, and it comes up. There it is. Now, there are the LED lights are connected, so to actually take this all the way off, you'd have to unplug this, you know, from the middle or down here, and then this one here is shorter, and you have to unplug it from this receiver. That's your receiver / ESC combo. So, unfortunately, without fiddling around to pull it off, you're going to end up having to kind of lay the body like that, at least for this video. So here are the internals. Kind of has this plastic chassis here. This sort of, you know, enclosed a little bit to help keep dirt and junk out of there, but it's not, obviously, it's just a little bit enclosed. Here is your steering servo, and this actually uses a 3-wire steering servo plug. So that means that this is a standard. That's nice. Doesn't use one of those goofy little 5-wire ones. So, you know, as I always say in these videos, you know, it's something if you tried to upgrade to brushless, it'd be easier because you could keep the steering servo, but you have to put a new receiver, an ESC, in the motor, and this is not something you're probably going to do that with, because you're going to spend, it's not worth the money. This is because this is still toy grade. This is not hobby grade, so I wouldn't recommend that on this, even without driving it. I can tell you now, it's not worth the time or hassle to do that. But it is nice. The steering servo is a standard 3-wire. Here is the plug. This is a Dean's plug, as we know, since we sold the battery, the extra already, but it just plugs in right there. This is probably a 390 brush motor, I believe here. Don't hold me to that. There's no specifications that tell me that in the instructions as far as I could see, but that looks like about that size. This is some passive red cooling fins on here. This will help keep the motor cool, which is nice. And that's pretty much everything that's underneath the body here. This does have, as I mentioned, it's 4-wheel drive, so there are dog bones here. They are just plastic though, so it could break, but they seem to be a composite. They're not like a super cheap plastic. But the 4-wheel drive will help out with the power and the traction and stuff like that. In terms of the internals, I haven't looked closely. So I would assume it has ball bearings. Most cars nowadays do, but don't hold me to that. But I haven't actually ripped this apart and look. You know, the instruction manual here should show you, but sometimes you can see here, it shows them here. So I would assume those are ball bearings, but they could theoretically be a bushing or a plastic ball bearing, but not common. Outside of Tamiya stuff, most places thankfully don't stick with use plastic ball bearings, which they were notorious about doing back in the 1980s and still do up to this day. You can see here the bumper has got some springiness here on these this plastic, you know, to help absorb the impact. So the bumpers look pretty nice. The tires, you can see it here, the air, there's no foam or anything in there. They're a little bit brittle. They're not super soft. They're kind of hard. But again, this is brushed. This is still toy grade. You don't expect the highest end tires on something like this. And it's not going to go fast enough. But you know, this, having the lack of foam will help, you know, with the impact and just the overall performance of the tire. But it's, again, that's not a big deal on something like this. You can see your you got your A-arms and stuff. These are all plastic. This feels more like an ABS plastic, so it's more like Tamiya would use on their kits when I use as a reference. You know, so it's not like a real high-end composite. But again, for what this truck does, I don't see an issue with any of that stuff. It ought to be just fine on that. All right, guys, I think we covered everything. You know, this video's running long enough now that we're at the end, so a lot of you probably didn't stick around, but that's why I'm putting this at the end so that you don't have to try to skim through at the beginning, because most people don't want to sit through much of the table reviews. They want to watch the car go or the drone fly, which is totally understandable. All right, guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, well, give it a thumbs down. Either way, give me some interaction. I greatly appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. While you're at it, click that bell. That notifies you every time I upload a new video. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.
The power of the dark side.